We're diving into a situation that's unfolding right now, in January 2026. A perfect storm of rebellion, economic collapse, and massive geopolitical pressure is pushing the Islamic Republic of Iran right to the edge. And let me tell you, this is way more than just another crisis. It's a complex, tangled mess with huge consequences for the Middle East and, honestly, for the entire world. Look at this number. This right here is the heart of the explosion. In late 2025, the Iranian currency, the rial, just fell off a cliff. It hit a mind-boggling 1.44 million to a single US dollar. Now, that's not just a number on a screen. That's the sound of life savings getting wiped out overnight. It's the spark that lit this whole country on fire, making even basic food impossibly expensive for millions of people.
So the big question is, how on earth did we get here? Well, we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the economic meltdown that started it all. Then, we'll see how that turned into a nationwide uprising. After that, we'll zoom out to Washington's high-stakes game of economic warfare, the growing threat of military action, and finally, what it all means for the stability of the whole region.
All right, part one, the economic meltdown. You have to understand, at its very core, this whole crisis was born from a complete economic collapse. The protests, they didn't kick off as some big political movement. No, it was a cry of desperation from shopkeepers, from factory workers, from people who literally could not survive another day.
This timeline really shows you just how fast everything went downhill. The last year has been absolutely brutal for Iran. It kicked off in June 2025 with those joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on their nuclear sites. Then, boom, by September, the UN's snapback sanctions were slammed back on. That means all the old sanctions were instantly put back in place. So you've got this 1-2 punch of military damage and economic strangulation, and that created the perfect storm for the currency to collapse in December, which led directly to the protest we're seeing now. To really get what's going on, you need to know this term, polycrisis. See, Iran isn't just dealing with one big problem. It's facing a domestic rebellion, total economic annihilation, and intense geopolitical pressure, all at the exact same time. And the scary part is, each crisis is making the others worse, creating a situation that is just way more volatile and unpredictable than any single issue by itself. And if you want to feel the human cost of all this, just listen to this quote from someone inside Iran's industries. It really captures the sheer despair. This isn't about stock charts and currency rates. It's about entire industries dying. It's about livelihoods just vanishing into thin air. And a future that, for millions of people, has simply been erased. So, as you can imagine, that economic despair quickly turned into political rage. What started with a few protests by shopkeepers in Tehran's Grand Bazaar has absolutely exploded. It's now spread to all 31 provinces, and it's become, without a doubt, the biggest challenge to the regime in its entire 47-year history. The regime's response? Utterly ruthless. Now, getting confirmed numbers out is almost impossible, but high-end estimates from activists on the ground suggest that as many as 12,000 protesters have been killed in the crackdown. We're talking about state-sponsored violence on a horrifying scale. And the methods they're using are this chilling mix of old-school brutality and new-school technology. You've got security forces using live ammunition on the streets, but at the same time, they're using facial recognition cameras to identify protesters for later arrest. They're confiscating satellite dishes to block outside news. And, most critically, they've shut down the internet almost entirely. Analysts have started calling this a digital iron curtain. And the goal is brutally simple. Stop Iranians from organizing with each other and stop the rest of the world from seeing the true scale of the violence. It's a strategy designed to let them commit atrocities in total darkness. But this has sparked a major international response. The Trump administration has gone on record saying it's looking for ways to get around this blackout, and that includes talking to Elon Musk about firing up the Starlink satellite internet service over the whole country. The information war is now a central front in this entire conflict. And that leads us right to the external pressure campaign. You see, Washington isn't just sitting back and watching this unfold. It's actively trying to speed up the regime's collapse with a strategy some are calling maximum pressure 2.0. And the main weapon in this new strategy is a blanket 25% tariff. But here's the twist. It's not a tariff on Iran. It's a tariff on any country that keeps doing business with Iran. This is a radical, and I mean radical, escalation of economic warfare. The strategy here is to force Iran's last few economic partners into a corner, make them choose.
The goal is to shut down China's shadow oil imports, to close the financial backdoors that the regime uses in the UAE, and to disrupt Russia's defense partnership with Iran. It is, effectively, a global economic chokehold.
And this is a huge but. A strategy this aggressive comes with enormous risks. Analysts are already warning it could easily tip over into a full-blown global trade war, messing up supply chains everywhere and maybe even slowing down the U.S.'s own economic growth. The potential fallout is massive.
So you put it all together, the uprising from within and this incredible squeeze from without, and it brings us right to the brink. The question of military intervention, something that's hung over the region for decades, now feels more real and more immediate than ever before. And that brings us to the one question that defines this entire moment. With the death toll climbing and no diplomatic off-ramps in sight, is military action now basically inevitable? And right here, this is exactly why the situation is so incredibly dangerous. Both sides have drawn red lines that are completely incompatible. The U.S. is framing a potential attack as a humanitarian rescue mission. Meanwhile, Iran is saying that any foreign intervention in what it calls an internal matter is an act of war. There is almost zero room to de-escalate here. Now, even though it's been weakened, Iran is far from helpless. It still has a massive arsenal of over 3,000 ballistic missiles, those infamous armed drones, and the ability to lay mines all over the Strait of Hormuz, a critical shipping lane. And don't forget, it can activate its proxy forces across the region, which could inflict unimaginable damage on U.S. allies and the global energy supply. So where does this all leave us? What are the ultimate consequences? Well, this convergence of crises has laid bare the fundamental vulnerability of the Iranian regime. This chart really visualizes the central paradox of the whole situation. On the outside, the regime can still project a lot of military power, but on the inside, its stability, its legitimacy with its own people has completely collapsed. It's like a hard, tough shell with a completely hollowed-out core, and that makes it dangerously unpredictable. And for the rest of us, well, the stakes could not be higher. A real, full-blown war in the Persian Gulf would threaten the flow of nearly a third of all the world's seaborne oil, and about 15% of all global trade that has to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. The shock to the global economy would be nothing short of catastrophic. Which leaves us with this final, stark question. The events of January 2026 have pushed Iran and the entire world right onto a knife's edge. Will all this pressure lead to the internal collapse of the regime, or is it going to trigger a devastating regional war? Right now, it's terrifying to say, but both outcomes seem equally possible.